Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, if you are sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 every single fall for the latest, greatest wrestling video game, stop doing it. Go on to Facebook. Sign up for Wrestler Unstoppable. Totally customizable. Create your own wrestler. Sign contracts. Join companies. Headline pay-per-views. Get involved in storylines. Even have your own corporation. All the things that you would love to be able to do in the world of professional wrestling. All for free. No money. Nothing. All free at Wrestler Unstoppable in Facebook today. And if you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, go over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/ProWrestlingPodcast to become a Patreon member today. Get your name into the shout-outs, our call-outs in our different episodes. As always, special shout-out to our number one contributor, Harold in St. Louis. Thank you, Harold. You are amazing. Our number one fan. Just saying, that guy gives me some of the greatest banter and conversation every single week. Thank you, Howard, for always bringing great ideas to me. And our buddy John in Hatfield, who is also one of our biggest contributors to the podcast. You guys are amazing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. I know I've been getting some messages. We haven't put up a podcast episode in over a week. It's been like 9 days since we put something up. There's been some craziness going on in my life, and I've been very tied up. But I am so glad to get freed up so I can bring this episode to you guys tonight. I've been dying to talk to y'all and get you some updates on the things going on in the world of professional wrestling. Please do not forget, some of the questions I got this week was, how is the tournament going? We have our greatest female wrestler of all time tournament going on right now, and because I missed the last week or so, I want everybody to know that round 3 of that tournament is up and running. There are some killer matches in round 3. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you guys vote. Those matches are live right now. Our Patreon members got access a week ago. Everybody else got access tonight, right now. Please go onto that website, frowrestling.com, the homepage of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you go on there, there is a link to go directly into our tournament voting page, and you can go ahead and cast your votes in round 3 of the greatest female wrestler of all time tournament. Please do that. We'd love to get you guys creating these phenomenal matches. These tournament offerings that we do with you guys are probably the most enjoyable and most rewarding thing. You guys are amazing bookers. You guys can come down and really make great decisions on who should beat who and see who moves on. And then, it's my job to come up with the phenomenal matches for you guys as you go through the tournament. So I'm really curious to see where you guys take this after round 3. As we go throughout the show, if you would like to be a part of the program, if you want to get your thoughts into the episode, I got 2 ways for you. 1, you can go to the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, which is phone number 267-642-1160, which is a talk-to-text service. So you leave a message there, it converts it to text messaging for me, and I can see it right here while we go through the show. If you don't want to go that route, if you want to talk in live chat with me, you can go to Spreaker.com to listen to this episode, and there is a chat function in Spreaker's service so that you could chat right to me, and I could respond to your things as they pop up right on my screen as we go through the show. So by all means, go ahead and do that. If you are new to the Pro Wrestling Podcast, we do have our homepage at frowrestling.com, frowrestling.com, where you can see any topic that we're going to discuss on any episode that is upcoming. For the first day or so after we do an episode, you'll see what was there on our last episode, and then when we start planning the next episode, you'll see the upcoming topics right there for you. There is a lot for us to talk about because we had about a week off, and I want to jump right into things. I know some of the stuff that we're going to talk about, some people are going to say, yeah, I've known that for a couple days now. I get it. I understand. I apologize. I will give you my take on things, and we'll see if that has any, if that adds enough substance to keep you guys entertained or not. Hopefully I do. That's my goal, is to make you guys happy. You guys are the lifeblood of this show, so if I don't make you guys happy, then I'm just not doing my job. And that's what I want to do, is do my job the best I can to make you guys happy. Before I forget, I got to throw this out there. Thank you so much to the guys over at Wrestle Talk TV on YouTube. I've got this great relationship that's starting to form with them, where they send me feedback and stuff every now and again. They throw comments up. And I got to say this to our regular listeners. If you love what we do here at the Pro Wrestling Podcast, I really appreciate that. Do me a favor. Give us a comment in the actual comment sections in YouTube, if you go through our YouTube channel or in Spreaker or wherever you would like. But what happens is we want to grow the podcast. We want to bring the entertainment to other people. And the way that works is when you give comments, likes, or subscribes to the podcast, yes, it helps me gain visualization and exposure. I get that. But it also drives us up the search engines when people are looking for wrestling podcasts, and it helps just grow it. Now, here's the thing. I try to come up with as engaging episodes as I can for you guys. I love bringing you guys as much info as I can. But you know what's a beautiful thing? When you guys are a part of the show. And what I really want is for more of you to become a part of the show and to expand to more and more people to become a part of the show, because you guys sometimes come up with topics that I didn't even think of, and it's a beautiful thing. And I really, the more people we reach, the more audience members that we bring in, the better the topics of conversation are going to be. Heading after this female tournament we're doing, I'm going to be asking you guys, the fans, to be giving me suggestions for the next tournament offering that you would like to see. So for those who have not been long-term Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, I will just give you a recap. We have already done Greatest World Champion of All Time, Greatest Intercontinental Champion of All Time, Greatest Tag Team of All Time, and now we are into the Greatest Female Wrestler of All Time. So, the next tournament, I'm more than happy to recycle something we've done before or come up with something that you find to be more intriguing. By all means, we're going to be going into that after we're done the female tournament, so get some ideas now. And then in a few weeks, when we're done with the women's tournament, I'm going to be asking you guys to cast your votes and send me messages about what you would like to hear in our next tournament offering, and I'll announce that probably the first week of December. So, get those ideas flowing. If you have some things in the back of your mind already, but feel free, send them to me in the sound offline or in the comments section here, and I'll be more than happy to include that in the tabulation of what we're going to do on our next tournament. So start thinking about that now. I'm going to jump into some of the, I mean this, I'm going from old to new, okay? Because I don't want to skip over anything, because, you know, I love the dialogue that I have with you guys when you send me messages. So I'm going to go all the way back to Jeff Jarrett. The big news last week that Jeff Jarrett was gone from Impact Wrestling and what he's going to be doing. So, for those who don't know, and at this point, if you're listening to this podcast, I get the impression you're an awesome, diehard pro wrestling fan, so much so that you want to listen to this podcast, and because there's so many other big podcasts out there, and you've chosen mine. Thank you so much for that. But if you listen to wrestling news that often, you already know Jeff Jarrett is gone from Impact Wrestling, and you also probably know why. Because he went to a show in Canada and was absolutely drunk out of his mind and couldn't perform. And that just looks bad for Impact Wrestling if you keep him in any capacity. I understand he was on a leave of absence for an extended period of time, but let's face it. Jeff Jarrett was still had a chance to come back to the company, and now because of this, that is not going to happen. It is his fault, nobody else's. However, I do have this wonderful thing to report that Jeff Jarrett is in a treatment facility for alcoholism. Congratulations to him for doing that. I know that his daughter came out and in some ways almost made it like she was putting the blame on Karen Jarrett for him being there, but he needs to get help. And that's what he's doing. So I don't care what it took for him to get the help. Congratulations, Jeff Jarrett, on doing the right thing. You're taking care of you in a WWE-sponsored rehabilitation program. How poetic is that? An organization that has pretty much blackballed him from ever working there again is the ones that are going to pay to help him get his things under control. What a classy, classy thing for WWE to do. That being said, he is gone from Impact Wrestling, and when he first was terminated, he made the statement that Impact Wrestling is out of money, that they're going broke. Anthem is a large corporation, but they are dropping tons of money into a product that is not turning a huge profit right now. Some people have noticed higher, more expensive talents have left the company. They have a tough time keeping people. They have a lot of controversy going on with Alberto El Patron winning in the world title and then having to be stripped of it because of his issues with Paige and all this other stuff that goes on. So, Impact Wrestling, really, if he's accurate in their money and financial issues, it's almost like a rehash of a year ago with Dixie Carter when she was out of money, and it was concerned that they couldn't make payroll, so they wouldn't be able to do television recording episodes and things like that because they couldn't pay anybody. And it almost feels like we're in that situation again. This week there was talk of several wrestlers leaving Impact Wrestling. It's kind of a scary time to be an Impact Wrestling star. Now maybe some of the stars there won't say that, and they put out these media calls, and they launched the Global Network, which I don't understand why they kept calling it the Global Wrestling Network when you're not going to be doing the Global Force Wrestling name now because Jeff Jarrett retained that. But whatever, to each his own. But I hope that in some way Anthem or whoever owns Impact Wrestling a year from now, because it's like people are playing hot potato with it anymore. I really hope they get things together because we need strong brands to oppose WWE. I don't mean directly. I'm not talking about the Bullet Club invasion. I'm talking about we need a substantial wrestling presence from marquee companies that can not necessarily challenge WWE for number one, but we need somebody who can attract talent so WWE doesn't keep buying everybody up. See, that's part of the problem. These smaller companies want to grow, but they can't compete with sometimes the opportunity of World Wrestling Entertainment or the exposure. It's certainly not about the money anymore. Countless wrestlers are talking about how they're making more money on the independents nowadays than they did when they worked for WWE. Austin Aries is one of them. You have people like Jack Swagger is another. People talking about how much money they make on the independent scene. Even this week, Joey Ryan was asked about if he would ever make a run in WWE, and he said, for me to do that, I'd have to take a 2/3 pay cut because he makes so much money on the independent scene and has so much more freedom. So it's not about the money anymore, but WWE continually buys up talents because they want that exposure. Now, here's the reality. Somebody like Leo Rush, who signed with WWE recently, yes, he probably made more money on the independent circuit, but when you go to WWE and you get that exposure, whenever your contract is up there, if you do leave, like Neville recently, whenever Neville hits the independent world, he's going to be one of the highest paid wrestlers in the independent wrestling market, which means he will make more money than he made in WWE. Only last week it was reported the salaries of a lot of the WWE divas, and some of them like Bayley making $200,000 a year. That sounds like a lot of money, but really, it's not. It's really not. The Young Bucks are probably making significantly more than that, especially because of their merchandise deals at Hot Topic stores. So, depending on how you market yourself and how good you are at self-promotion, you really could make a great living outside of WWE, and you don't really have to have their money. But hopefully, Impact Wrestling finds a way to find some money of their own so they could be a competitor. I'm going to update you real quickly on Roman Reigns' condition. Everybody knows that he was gone from the TLC pay-per-view. He has the mumps. He was also not at Raw again this week. I think they're trying really hard to postpone naming the members of the Raw Survivor Series team because they want Roman to be on that team, but they got to make sure he's medically cleared first, and he has not been so yet. But he's just not ready to come back. It's a serious condition. Mumps is not something to toy around with. It's highly contagious. Thankfully, all the other talents have been vaccinated now, but that doesn't help the fans at ringside. And you've got people bringing children to the events and to the arenas. You can't bring a wrestler out there that could spread an infectious disease around all these kids, or a viral infection. I shouldn't say an infectious disease. It's not a disease, but still, you understand what I'm saying. I'm going to jump into some other news I found fascinating. The Bullet Club had a tease for Wrestle Kingdom 12. So Wrestle Kingdom always takes place in the first week of January. This year it's Wrestle Kingdom 12. And the Bullet Club were saying that they're teasing that they may have another member there, and it may be either Stone Cold Steve Austin or Hulk Hogan. Now, we've heard the teasing of Hulk Hogan in the past. Steve Austin is kind of a stretch for me. I wouldn't care which one it was. If either one of them showed up at Wrestle Kingdom, even as a outside-the-ring presence, would be mind-boggling. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the interview, but Hulk Hogan did an interview in New Japan Pro Wrestling in 1993 when he was WWF World Heavyweight Champion, going there to take on the IWGP Champion, the Great Muta, in matches that are just classic. Great matches because most American fans look at Hulk Hogan as the three-punch boot-to-the-face leg drop guy, but the reality is when he goes and wrestles in Japan, he uses a lot more technical wrestling. And a lot of American fans don't even know that he actually can wrestle. So you watch the matches with Great Muta, and you get to see this very different presentation. But the reason I went there, he did an interview after his match with Muta and made reference to the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship being the most prestigious championship in the world of wrestling, including his own, at the time, WWF World Heavyweight Championship. So that should say something to you about what Hogan's thoughts are and his relationship with the IWGP Championship and New Japan Pro Wrestling in general, who he competed for in 1982 and 83. So it would be very interesting to see Hulk Hogan show up at Wrestle Kingdom and represent the Bullet Club. I think it would be awesome. Speaking of Wrestle Kingdom, I just want to throw this out there. I had this in a different order earlier when I was thinking this through. But if you would like to go to Wrestle Kingdom in Japan, they have travel packages put together now. You can go on to New Japan's website and you can book a travel package for in the neighborhood of about $580. And as a part of your package, you get all your food, you get your accommodations there in a 3-star hotel, transportation to the arena, all the nooks and crannies that you would really want to have. The only thing it doesn't cover is the airfare, which if you go on AmericanAirlines.com, here's my free plug for American Airlines, you could book a round-trip flight during the Wrestle Kingdom time period for about $2,100. I think it was $2,102 exactly. So for a grand total of around $2,600 to $2,700, you could go to Wrestle Kingdom round trip and go to Japan for the biggest show, the equivalent of WrestleMania here in the United States. That travel package includes your ticket to the stadium, everything else. So there's people who every year go to WrestleMania and they drop $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. You could do Wrestle Kingdom for about $2,700. Definitely for a diehard wrestling fan, something to think about. It's a very cool opportunity. Speaking of cool announcements and opportunities, Ricochet. As everybody knows, his contract with Lucha Underground is up. He is not allowed to appear on any other televised wrestling program in North America until his contract fully absolves, which is now being stated as January 16th, 2018. So originally, there was conversation that he may be signing with WWE. Then it broke this week that he's in negotiations with Impact Wrestling. Earlier today, it was announced that the negotiations with Impact have fallen through. What is bizarre to me is that his real-life girlfriend, Tessa Blanchard, daughter of legendary Four Horsemen member Tully Blanchard, was also negotiating with WWE, but apparently has accepted a deal to appear for Impact Wrestling at their tapings that are coming up next week. So Tessa Blanchard to TNA, or to Impact Wrestling, looks like a reality. In addition, Sami Callihan has also signed with Impact Wrestling. He'll be debuting Guaranteed Lock at the next television tapings. And Ricochet, it's not that the door is closed for him to go there, but it's looking less likely, which is bizarre to me that he would have his girl go there and then he's still negotiating with WWE. But I actually hope he goes to WWE. Here's the problem, and I know I was just saying about WWE signing too many guys, and I sound like a hypocrite now, but the reality is, as horrible as WWE's booking is, I don't even know how you could book Ricochet bad. You put him on a 205 Live, or you put him into Raw or SmackDown going for the secondary championships, or you put him in a feud with Finn Balor, AJ Styles, people like that. Those are going to be matches for the ages. He is phenomenal in the ring. He's an amazing talent. He could do things that I've never seen anybody else be able to do. I've seen indie guys try to pull off what he does, but they do it sloppy. It's nowhere near the quality of Ricochet. He is arguably the greatest pound-for-pound wrestler in the world right now. And I say arguably because people have their opinions. There's a lot of people, since he walked out of WWE, who think Neville is the greatest pound for pound. There's Kazuchika Okada fans, AJ Styles fans, and all kinds of other talents out there. Shinsuke Nakamura, Tetsuya Naito. Lots of people who people debate as being the best. But if he's not the best, he's certainly one of the best pound for pound wrestlers ever in the history of wrestling. And it's not just about high spots. He could do the technical stuff, he could do power wrestling, and he could do just this exciting, high-speed, fast-paced, action-packed wrestling matches. So he really is the total package. I'd really like to see he and Neville lock up, because that's a match that, in my opinion, is a WrestleMania quality level match. Now, of course, we're not going to see that, because Neville, I'm sure, is going to get blackballed, because Vince McMahon is willing to open his doors and bring talents back from the past when it's somebody big, or who he thinks is big, like the Ultimate Warrior and Bret Hart and Kurt Angle and people of that nature. I don't think Vince McMahon ever had respect for Neville, which is pathetic because the internet wrestling community loves Neville. They really do. They appreciate his talent. They think that he should have been on the main roster in a heavyweight position, not stuck in a 205 Live cruiserweight division. And I agree with them. So it'll be curious to see what happens with Ricochet. But on his Twitter account, he put down a statement that he won't be taking bookings, independent bookings, after January 16th. In addition, he put up that tweet that was a picture of a clock saying counting down. So be curious to see what Ricochet does come January 16th. So, there is a conversation about the new formation of a Smackdown tag team, this thing that we've been seeing with Rusev and Aiden English. Look, Aiden English, incredibly talented young man. My opinion, I know he looks a little bigger, but I'd have had him on 205 Live. But I find it fascinating that he's wrestling with Rusev as a tag team now because they don't have any heel tag teams. Yes, they got the Bludgeon Brothers coming in, and I suppose they're supposed to be bad guys. You've got the Usos, who've kind of gone babyface-ish. They're supposed to be heels, but they're kind of feeling like baby faces right now. I don't know what you call Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable, because they're kind of blurring the lines too. The New Day are good guys, but they rated Raw as bad guys. It's so confusing right now. You've got Connor and Victor, the Ascension. I don't know what they are anymore. So they needed a real legit heel tag team, and Rusev and Aiden English fill that void. So that is the reason behind the creation of the tag team. I'll be curious to see, though, if they ever give them any kind of legitimate booking, because in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, I actually think Aiden English is significantly better than they have made him look to be on television. And I've always thought Rusev was underused. Ever since his initial losses to John Cena and whatnot, they really haven't figured out what to do with him. The League of Nations stuff was garbage. Everything since has been garbage. They need to find a way to build him back up, and instead he just doesn't seem to be able to break through the mid-card. I guess putting him in a tag team gives them some time to figure something else out to do with the guy, but gosh, like, do something of substance with him, would you? There is a website called Ringside News who has a report out about Asuka and Shinsuke Nakamura that WWE has flat out told them that they need to tone down their strong style wrestling. That's what they're known for. This strong style, heavy striking, stiff kicks, stiff punches, this hardcore wrestling style, and they want them to tone it down. That's half of what their fan base is looking for. That's what makes them a legitimate, credible contender. Let's face it, Shinsuke Nakamura weighs like 210 pounds soaking wet on a hot summer day. He's tiny. The reason he gets over as a main event star is because of his brutality, his propensity for being a stiff worker. You can't tone that down or he'll look like nothing. I love that he's going to be representing the Smackdown Survivor Series team, because I'd love to see him and Braun Strowman in the ring. That's going to look a little lopsided, you know? But at the end of the day, I guess WWE just isn't ready for strong style, which is I find kind of funny because their UK division has teams, British strong style wrestling for them, who they're also stiff shooters. Bobby Lashley was in the news this week. He was talking about a fight with Brock Lesnar. That fight could come in UFC or in Bellator or in WWE or Impact Wrestling. He doesn't care where. He doesn't care if it's a wrestling match or a mixed martial arts match. He thinks they would match up very well. He thinks that their styles are very similar, but he also thinks he has more experience and would be the one to come out on top. And he said, his quote was, "It's got to get done. At some point, it's got to get done." And I couldn't agree more. This match should have happened back when the both of them were in WWE. But it didn't. Lashley was just coming in as Brock Lesnar was heading out. You know, and every time there was an opportunity for something like, you know, Lashley's contract coming due with Impact, WWE never reached out to Lashley. They didn't bring him in. They need to, all these talents they bring in, Lashley's a proven commodity. And he's a legitimate tough guy. You know, he's tearing it up in Bellator. I've never understood why he hasn't had a shot at the Bellator Heavyweight Championship. That's a complete travesty. It would be great to see he and Brock get in the ring and see what they can do. So, WWE, do the right thing. Put Lashley or Lesnar together in a WWE ring, or when Lesnar's contract is up, UFC, let him go, and let him go fight in Bellator against Lashley. That's what we want to see. Speaking of things we want to see, 205 Live is becoming more and more of a watchable program, and it may become even more watchable because Impact Wrestling star Rockstar Spud has been released. He requested his release and was granted earlier this week, and now there is talk that WWE is interested in Rockstar Spud for the 205 Live roster, which would be a huge get for them. I know if you're not a huge Impact Wrestling fan, you may not understand that, but Rockstar Spud, for a tiny guy, can do a lot. And he's got just a very unique personality, almost like a cartoonish, childlike Finn Balor presence about him. And I think he'd be a great addition to the 205 roster. They got to put somebody there who could draw and attract a crowd. They're talking about another name, and that's a name that's familiar to WWE fans, and that's someone off the NXT roster, Hideo Itami, who they're talking about bringing up to the main roster, onto the Raw brand and to 205 Live, to try to bolster the competition on that show and really give that show an opportunity to shine. They haven't had that. And that's half the problem. 205 Live will never become a viable television program if you don't cultivate it the same way you do Raw and SmackDown. You have to treat it almost as if it's a separate brand. Otherwise, people have no reason to invest their time and money in the Cruiserweight division. And giving a championship for a week to Kalisto to take it off him and give it back to the hothead Enzo Amore really didn't do anything to build up credibility in the division. Enzo Amore can barely wrestle to save his life, and suddenly he's just unstoppable. It doesn't make sense. What also doesn't make sense to me is WWE's Survivor Series match booking. I enjoy the concept of the Raw Women's Champion versus the SmackDown Women's Champion, the Raw Intercontinental Champion versus the SmackDown United States Champion, the Raw Universal Champion versus the SmackDown WWE Champion. I get those. And the tag team champions going against each other. What I don't understand is why you've booked it so that you have the combinations going on that you do right now. Like, let's be serious. The Miz versus Baron Corbin? Does that make sense to anyone? Who's the babyface in that match? Probably The Miz. Because everyone seems to hate Corbin. Fans, wrestlers, everybody. I'll be cheering for The Miz. But I think that it would have been better if one of the two of them did not have that respective championship and you had a better heel babyface opportunity with somebody else. The tag team competition, I feel like, is a complete joke. The Usos, if they book the Usos strong against the Shield, you've dumped on everything you've built up with the Shield coming back together in the first place. It's a joke. Brock against a former jobber, now WWE World Champion, to me is a joke. I know why they're doing it, but that's not the point. To me, it's a joke. If Brock doesn't win that match, it'll be another schmaz ending for a WWE champion who has done very little. Not nothing. He has beat people now legitimate, but not enough to be a legit world champion to have held the title as long as he has. Somebody put up online the other day, he needs to go to like August 16th, 18th, something like that of next year to pass CM Punk's 434-day reign. I actually wouldn't mind them doing that just so we can get Punk's reign off the books. And I know I'm going to take flack for that because there's so many CM Punk fans out there. But here's the deal, guys. I'm gonna throw down my 2 seconds on CM Punk. I love CM Punk. I think he really was the best in the world. I think he really did deserve to main event WrestleMania. You know what else I think? The only reason you know that is because you are diehard fans who love him. You love his work. And what is your thanks for loving him and supporting him all those years, helping him develop the ego that he has to think that he deserves a WrestleMania moment? You've spent all the money on the t-shirts, on the wristbands, on the tape for your hands. You've drawn the X's. You've put the stuff on your fingers. You've done everything that Punk does to support this wrestler, for him to get frustrated with booking, get frustrated over medical condition, which he obviously hasn't won that lawsuit, so you got to move past it. You can't live in the past forever. And what he's done is he's effectively taken away the number one thing that you guys wanted, which was to see him perform. I'm not saying he has to go back to WWE. I'll never say that. But to completely shun the entire wrestling world is a little bit ludicrous. Especially when you've gotten all the time. When you're walking out of WWE because you didn't get a WrestleMania moment, it implies, the main event, it implies that you wanted to have that WrestleMania main event. Well, how can you go from wanting to headline WrestleMania to not wanting to wrestle at all? And that's what he's done. Okay, so I understand. You're trying to go after this UFC thing. It's not working out. It's literally 4 years of you getting one fight that you lost relatively quickly, and nothing but respect for CM Punk. I'm thrilled that he got to follow his dream and get in the octagon. But I don't think that's your career path. You go from being the best in the world to questionably whether you should be competing or not. And Bellator is not the answer. They put on the shock value fights, and people know that. It's a second-rate B league of mixed martial arts. No offense, Bellator. So, CM Punk should be doing what he is the best in the world at doing. Performing in a wrestling ring once or twice a year, if nothing else. Just so he can keep in touch with the fans who made him who he is. He's sitting at home right now doing nothing wrestling related because he doesn't have to, because you guys padded his paycheck, as did I, buying his stuff. Because you loved him so much. And he's sitting back with all that money and totally blowing you guys off. The reason he has the ability to have the lifestyle he has is because of you. Thank you guys for giving him your support, but I have a problem with him turning his back on the wrestling world now because you guys invested a lot of money in that man, and you deserve a little more return on your investment. That's just my opinion. Now, moving back into more conversation, this, by the way, on the Survivor Series topic, because I still have that up on my screen, the 5-on-5 traditional match, I suppose it's all right. I don't understand why Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are not in the picture. I think that's a bad booking decision. I think it creates an opportunity for the two of them to get involved in the 5-on-5 match, which kind of takes some of the luster off of that match, unless you find a different program for them to be in, but I don't think they will in the time they have to build towards Survivor Series. But we'll have to see. I'm curious to see who's going to be on the Raw team. I know there's internet rumors saying that it's going to be like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman and Kurt Angle and Finn Balor. I don't even like that combination. I really don't. Finn Balor, the last 2 weeks, having his issues with Kane, I'd much rather see the two of them get it on and have him be the demon versus the other demon, you know? But I don't think we're going to see that either. So we'll have to wait and see. For Survivor Series, really strange booking right now. It's just a little on the weird side. By the way, the too sweet hand gesture, apparently they have changed that now. They put up, the same too sweet hand gesture minus the pinky. It's adorable. They have new shirts out. They'll do anything to stick up a finger to WWE because they're so irritated with the way WWE has handled everything. And I hope WWE realizes by giving cease and desist and everything else, you're giving the Young Bucks, who are incredibly creative, just more and more fuel for the fire and more t-shirts to sell. You didn't like that they were going to sell t-shirts with too sweet on them. Now they're not only are they selling those same shirts with like the censored spot over top of the too sweet, so they're still selling as many of those shirts as they ever did. Now they're also selling cease and desist shirts. All WWE did was pad their pocket. Good job, WWE. Update on Kurt Angle wrestling more matches. As was announced on Raw this week, Kurt Angle will be the captain of the Raw Survivor Series team. It is also being speculated he'll be at the Royal Rumble and at WrestleMania. So thankfully, the performance at TLC must have been good enough that WWE has confidence in allowing Kurt Angle to wrestle more often, not less, which is a good thing. He obviously can still go. He did a great job at TLC. For those who didn't notice, I haven't done an episode since TLC, the night of TLC. I've been tweeting a little bit more, which was awesome because during TLC I gave a real big shout out to the 205 Live crew who put on the tag team match, and I've noticed that shortly after Brian Kendrick went on to my Twitter handle, which is at FAFII0918, and he liked one of my tweets, so thank you, Brian Kendrick, you're awesome. That was very cool for me to see, but it'll be great to see Kurt Angle in the ring more, and so I'm hoping that after that TLC match that he looked like he could still go. I know when he's in the ring and when he's running from the Smackdown guys when they invaded Raw, it looked really weak, but at the end of the day, Kurt Angle's not weak. I actually didn't like that angle. When they attacked Raw, I thought Kurt Angle should have come out and stayed in the ring, taken a few bumps, and then the Raw roster should have come out and saved him. It would have had a much bigger effect for me than the jumping everybody in the back, because that didn't make a hair's bit of sense. It really didn't. Just my opinion. Nia Jax, thankfully she's back. When I was originally writing this episode, we still weren't sure what was going on, but it turns out that the reason she left had nothing to do with what most people were reporting, myself included. Turns out she left, she had some things to deal with, and she's back. And she wasn't angry with WWE. She wasn't upset about having to lose to Sasha Banks or any of that stuff. One news outlet reported that she spoke to The Rock about what to do and that he told her to walk out. Now they're saying that's not true either. That was just some fake news created by wrestling websites to try to get traffic. The reality is she had some things to take care of. She's back. Nia Jax should be a big part of the women's division going forward. I expect she and Asuka to get in the ring sooner rather than later, and it should be a fantastic feud. Another one that should be fantastic is the 4 Horsewomen versus the other 4 Horsewomen of mixed martial arts and WWE fame. As everybody should know by now, last week it was announced Ronda Rousey is training at the WWE Performance Center. She's actively getting herself ready to get in the ring, as are her other 4 Horsewomen counterparts. This is huge. Shayna Baszler is already signed to a WWE deal. The others will ahead of WrestleMania, and that apparently is the goal, to have this 4-on-4 match at WrestleMania. Now, personally, I would like to see the 4-on-4 match at the Royal Rumble, because if you do the match at the Royal Rumble, it really doesn't matter which person takes the fall. You could still set up Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, and you really could, if you did it correctly, promote that as the first ever Divas match, or women's match, or ladies match, or female match to headline WrestleMania. I've been saying that for weeks on the podcast. Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte, main event WrestleMania. Do it. This whole women's revolution means nothing if they never get the main event WrestleMania. Ronda Rousey is the biggest draw you're ever going to get for a female competition. Do it this year. But it sounds like they're not going to do that. Vince McMahon wants to go traditional with the men ending the show, and he's going to have this 8-woman tag team match instead. I understand it. I just don't like it. I think they could book a whole lot better if they went a different direction. WWE releases, that was the other big thing this week. Emma, shocking release after her fantastic performances with Asuka, where they made her look really strong, even though they made Asuka look like a loser. They go and they release her. I hope she goes out in the independents and tears the world apart. She was so much better than they ever used her. That horrible Emelina transition that never worked out because they didn't have confidence in her character or whatever. I don't care if they would have turned her back into that stupid bubbly Emma character where she walked around doing a stupid dance with Santino. They never knew what to do with her, and she's so much better than what they gave her. In addition, Summer Rae and Darren Young were released as well, as everybody should know by now. If you don't, I'm breaking the news to you for the first time. Summer Rae, no surprise there. She got hurt. She got cleared to come back over 6 months ago and hasn't come back. You know why? Because she didn't really want to be in the business to begin with. She wants to go be a pinup model. Go do that with somebody else. I don't have time. I'm a wrestling fan. I want to see my wrestlers wrestle. I don't want to see all this pinup calendars. Look, if you're some guy who wants to go buy a WWE swimsuit calendar every year, more power to you. You know, I wish you could find somebody in your life so you don't have to do that. But if you're a single guy, whatever. But that's not what wrestling is about. It's about competition. It's about seeing these people in the ring portraying characters that are engaging, not what pinup model calendar Summer Rae is going to do. So good riddance to Summer Rae. Darren Young, I thought never got a shot. Booked in being a primetime player was an okay act. But when he came back, put him with Mr. Backlund was terrible. He's a lot better than they ever gave him a chance to show. He easily could have been pushed into the middle of the card and just never got a break. I hope he goes out and lights the world on fire too. I hope he goes Impact, Ring of Honor, something like that. I did see on Facebook yesterday, somebody put up a Bullet Club shirt in rainbow colors for Darren Young. And I don't know if they computer edited it to make it look like it was Matt Jackson asking him to join the Bullet Club or not, but I wouldn't have any problem seeing that. I would love to see him join the Bullet Club or any other major promotion for that matter, because Darren Young is a lot better than WWE let him look. That they were the releases. The opposite side of the release thing is the returns. We've got, and Raw this week we had the return of Stephanie McMahon, which sounded like nails on a chalkboard for me. We had the return of Nia Jax. We had the return of Bo Dallas. We had the return of I'm blanking. Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman. Like, everybody in the world was coming back to Raw. And then the announcement that on the 25th anniversary episode of Raw, they'll be broadcasting from 2 locations. The original Manhattan Center, where the first episode took place, which, by the way, giving a mad shout out to my buddy Nate in Sellersville. He and I were at the first season of Raw at the Manhattan Center the night, not the first episode, but the night that the 1-2-3 Kid defeated Razor Ramon. We were there. They recorded 3 episodes of Raw that night. It's like 6 hours of wrestling. It was the night that Marty Jannetty won the Intercontinental title from Shawn Michaels. They did the whole thing with Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid. They taped the next episode where it was setting up the first ever King of the Ring, with Bret Hart came out, was making fun of Razor for losing his match, and Bret Hart was starting the 1, 2, 3 chant, which is part of where the name came from. Just all kinds of craziness. And then we got to see Marty Jannetty come out and defend his newly won Intercontinental title against Bam Bam Bigelow. So it was a great TV taping for us to be at. And the fact that they're going to have some of that broadcast from that same location, very cool, very nostalgic. But the big news was Kevin Nash and Shawn Michaels will be at that episode, as will supposedly The Undertaker. I find this curious, as the episode is in December, shortly before the Royal Rumble, and I'm starting to wonder if Taker may be ready to return to the ring. He said that if he got the hip surgery, he was done. He was never coming back again, but it seems like that may not be the case. He was running the ropes at a Raw taping a few months ago, and now he's going to be at the 25th anniversary show, and he got Royal Rumble right after that, and then we're right into WrestleMania season. It seems like it would be a good time for John Cena versus The Undertaker if they can get him to agree to do the match. And if he comes out of that match and he's doing all right, who knows? Maybe we get a couple more out of him. There's a couple matches I'd love to see. Like, I'd like to see Finn Balor in The Undertaker. I'd like to see AJ Styles in The Undertaker. I'd like to see Goldberg in The Undertaker. I'd like to see Goldberg and Roman Reigns. I'd like to see Goldberg and, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things I'd like to see. Bring back some guys, which, by the way, I'm still expecting Goldberg to show up at the Royal Rumble. I don't think it'll last long, but I think he'll be there. That's just my prediction. The last thing I want to talk about this episode is about what, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting angles, storylines, rumors, news bits that I've heard in months. And it's getting such little press, and it should get more, because it's going crazy on Twitter. And that's the constant back and forth banter between Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega, the leader of the Bullet Club. So for those who don't know, Chris Jericho has it's like a cruise event going on next year. I want to say in the October time frame, where they're going to be cruising, and he's going to have rock bands and wrestling matches. Ring of Honor is going to be their I forget what they're calling it. They're basically an honor tournament on the cruise ship. And so it's going to be this great wrestling rock and roll combination event. And during that event, it is now being rumored that Jericho and Omega... See, they started out somebody talking about how Kenny Omega was the new greatest wrestler in the world, and Jericho's like, who is this Omega kid? And there was some back and forth argument about, I put on 6-star quality matches, and Jericho's saying, yeah, except nobody sees them. Kenny Omega later in the week was giving him some more guff, talking about how he was ending the conversation, and Jericho's like, yeah, go back to Japan where nobody in the United States will be able to see you, and like all this stuff. And now it's being reported that it's all a work, that Kenny Omega is going to take on Chris Jericho in the main event of the of the show on the cruise. I think that's fantastic, because Jericho has such a great relationship with WWE, and Kenny Omega is one of New Japan's biggest draws. To see the two of them in the ring together would be just awesome. That's a match I don't think I ever would have thought would have happened. Now it looks like it could be very well be a legit opportunity. And what's bizarre to me, and also fitting, is that Chris Jericho is the one wrestler. I know The Rock makes more money than anybody in Hollywood. I understand that. I know several other wrestlers. Stone Cold has his Broken Skull Challenge and things like that. I know Jericho's, he's got the band Fozzy, but he's done so much more. He's been an author. He's been on Dancing with the Stars. He's been on, VH1 had that 80s and 90s shows. He's been on different video clip shows and things of that nature. But he always branches out and he ventures out into other areas. And this is yet another way he can do that. And if Chris Jericho can make this cruise thing work, it may turn into an annual thing. How awesome would that be? And so for those who are interested, get this. You can go on the Chris Jericho cruise, and I forget what it's called. I apologize. I should have had that for you, but I don't. But his cruise is $750 a person to go on the cruise. Dude, what a deal. All-inclusive, on a cruise ship. It's like 5 nights. You get to see wrestling every night. You get to watch rock bands every day. You get to hang out on the pool deck every day. What an awesome vacation. So check that out if you haven't already. Google it. You'll find it, Chris Jericho's Cruise, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. Check that out, because that is going to be a really fantastic opportunity. Before I forget, got to throw the plug out there one more time. Round 3 of the Greatest Female Wrestler tournament Greatest Female Wrestler of All Time tournament is live right now. You could go to our Facebook, or not our Facebook, our homepage at frowrestling.com. Cast your vote right away. By all means, speaking of social media, connect with us. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google Plus, anywhere. Patreon, patreon.com/frowrestlingpodcast. Jump onto any of our sites. Go to YouTube. Subscribe to us there. The more places that we get to connect with you guys, the bigger and better the podcast gets. For doing my shameless plug, because I have to do this, if you are anywhere in the southeastern Pennsylvania area, if you are not going to see the Worldwide Wrestling Alliance or Susquehanna Wrestling Organization, you're missing out. Great shows. It's kind of like they stagger their schedule. So the WWWA runs shows at Zern's Farmers Market the second Saturday each month, and at Quakertown Farmers Market the fourth Saturday of each month. And a similar crew, some of the similar talent, works Susquehanna Wrestling Organization the first and third Saturdays of the month out in Lancaster County. So if you're anywhere near here, by all means, check out their shows. Go to their websites, thewwwa.com, and see what's coming to your area if you're in southeastern Pennsylvania. It's a great opportunity to see some really cool in-ring action. Throughout the week, if you come up with something you want us to talk about on the podcast, call into our sound-off line, 267-642-1160. Please don't forget to call us. Give us your questions, your comments, anything that you would like us to cover. We want you to call in and give us your feedback, your insight, or if there's something you want us to do, let us know there. I always am sensitive to make sure I address anything that the fans, the people who send the comments and the questions, whatever they're looking for. Check it out. Give us some feedback. Give us some things to talk about. Just some other plugs, because I haven't had an opportunity to do some of this lately, and I was off for over a week. I want to throw out some plugs here. First off, if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, always go to www.sportsjunkies101.com for the latest articles on the news of professional wrestling. If you are interested in getting into the business, look up the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, or if you're here in the Philadelphia marketplace, the Wrestle Factory at thewrestlefactory.com. They are two organizations, Black and Brave, run by Tyler Black and Marek Brave. Tyler Black, also known as Seth Rollins from WWE, and the Wrestle Factory, owned and operated by a variety of Philadelphia talents, including Mike Quackenbush, who is an independent superstar here in southeastern Pennsylvania. By all means, check that out. They hold a phenomenal tournament every year, the Trios Tournament, that has now become worldly renowned. And the other sponsors of the site, of the Pro Wrestling Podcast: Wrestler Unstoppable, the game where you create everything from start to finish to create an entire wrestling career totally free on Facebook. We got Sketchy People, showcase your artistic side in the game from Beazle Games, where you get to create, it's almost like a cross between Chutes and Ladders and Pictionary. Check it out, Sketchy People. Go to frowrestling.com and click the icon in the middle of the screen to get your copy. And speaking of games, we got two more for you. Legendary Elements. Who's going to complete their quest to become the master of the elements? It could be you. Check out Legendary Elements on frowrestling.com. And Banani Market. To move around, it says don't miss everything on your list. Go to Banani Market, where you go into the shopping center and you got to grab everything on your list and be the first one out of the store to win the game. To AlleyRepair.com. Thank you, Alley Repair, for servicing everybody's pinball, skee-ball, video game, arcade needs. They do a great job, bang up work, top quality stuff there at a really reasonable price. Go to AlleyRepair.com today if you have a need for skee-ball repair. Go on to YouTube. There are two channels you gotta check out. Cinescape, if you want to get the latest reviews of some of the movies coming out, Cinescape is fantastic. Great group of guys there. And if you are a diehard WWE fan, go to Demon King Edits 101, which is a great guy. He puts together these really cool mashups of all the different wrestler entrances and whatnot. check that out. We are trying to bring you guys another interview in the very near future. I hope to get that announcement out later this week. But if you have not heard any of our interviews in the past, if you go to frowrestling.com and scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see all the interviews we've done so far, conversations that we've had with Dr. Tom Pritchard, Johnny Mantell of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Marek Brave from the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, Tully Blanchard, Jumping Jim Brunzell, Donovan Dijak. The day before they announced his signing with WWE, he sat down with the Fro Wrestling Podcast and did an episode with us. So thanks to everybody who checks out those episodes. They're very, very cool to listen to. Don't forget to become a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast. This month, don't forget, if you become a $25 contributor, you will be guaranteed to host an episode of Goin Live with me. We'll set up an episode, get in touch, dial you into the hotline, get you on live, and we will do the episode together. And if you are a $10 subscriber, we will put your name into a hat to be drawn at random to host an episode with me as well. That's all the time I have for this episode. Check back with us next time. We'll run down all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all of our music and sound effects that we use in our shows. And I can't say it enough. If you are looking for a new opportunity in the world of higher education, whether that's a college, a university, or if you need additional training to start a new career path, that's what we do at frolifeplanning.com. All your higher education needs are taken care of. We'll walk you through all the process, help find funding, help you pick classes, help you decide what it is that you want to do in the next stage of your life. That's what we do at Fro Life Educational Planning, because Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, don't forget to check out that site, www.thesportsjunkies101.com. Until next episode, everybody, take care and have a great night.